You've probably met someone like this before. A man steps into a room, not loud, not wearing anything extravagant. Yet somehow every head turns. He doesn't say much. Doesn't need to. There's an almost invisible force around him, like the atmosphere subtly shifts to accommodate his presence. No big gestures, no flashy introduction, and still, there's this undeniable gravity about him. On paper, he might just be another face in the crowd, nothing particularly outstanding. But in that moment, none of that matters. You see him and you feel it, that presence. And silently you find yourself thinking, how does he command this kind of attention? What is it about him that makes people instinctively treat him like he's someone of importance, even before he's done a single thing? Here's the uncomfortable truth. He's not necessarily more talented than you. It's not guaranteed to be more intelligent, more experienced, or more deserving. What sets him apart is something deceptively simple. He acts as if no one outranks him. And strangely enough, the world responds to that. You, on the other hand, may have been told to wait, to be modest, to let your hard work speak for itself. But the truth is, and it stings, the world rarely waits long enough to hear your story. It responds to signals. It reacts to presence. It watches how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you sit, how you look people in the eye or avoid. Your energy enters the room before your words ever do. If that energy whispers, "I'm not sure I belong," people will believe it. No matter how brilliant you are on the inside, if your outer presence wavers, so will their belief in you. That's why the old saying, "Act as if you are the best," isn't some empty motivational line. It's a strategy for survival. You don't wait to be respected and then begin to act with confidence. You lead with confidence, and that's what earns you respect. It's not about being fake. It's about performing with purpose. Because in many ways, life is a stage, and the people who shrink back from the spotlight, who hesitate to show up fully, end up watching from the wings, no matter how much genius they possess behind the scenes. Think of it this way. When a skilled actor steps onto the stage, aren't pretending in the way we think of lying. They're embodying. They're stepping into a role with full conviction. That's what powerful presence is. Showing up with intention, not apology, and it draws people in. That's what you must do. Because in the grand theater of life, those who hesitate to take center stage are given background roles. Even if their talent outshines the star, you might believe the world rewards skill, but it doesn't. It rewards certainty. A man who walks and speaks with unwavering conviction will be heard even when he's wrong. Meanwhile, a man who second-guesses himself, even when he's right, will often be ignored. People don't follow perfection. They follow energy. They're drawn to clarity, to the confidence of someone who appears to know the way, even when the map isn't clear. Confidence isn't something you're handed after you've achieved success. It's what you wear into battle before the fight even begins. It's not a side effect of winning. It's often the reason you win. Think back. How many moments did you let pass by because you felt you weren't ready? How many times did you hold your thoughts in, waiting for permission to speak, only to watch someone else say it with boldness and get all the credit? How many times did you pour in the hours, do the hardest work, and still get overlooked because someone else walked in like they belonged there? This world doesn't hand out permission slips. It rewards those who walk in like they own a seat at the table. That's why the most successful people aren't always the most gifted. They're often the most convincing. They move through the world as if it owes them something. They walk like the ground owes them something. They speak like their words are law. There's no hesitation, no second guessing. They move like the crown is already on their head. Not loud, not arrogant, but sure, steady. Certain, even when that crown is still invisible to everyone else. And over time, something strange begins to happen. The world starts to see it too. The crown becomes real in the eyes of others. Is it magic? No, it's repetition. It's the unwavering discipline of showing up day after day as the man you are becoming, not just wishing to be, until that version of yourself becomes so consistent, so familiar that people stop questioning it. They accept it. They believe it. Maybe you're thinking, but I'm not that confident yet. That's okay. Truly, you don't have to feel it completely. You just have to act like you do. Not to fool others, but to retrain yourself. Act. Because this isn't pretending. This is becoming. This is transformation through practice. It's like a sculptor standing before a raw block of marble. You're chipping away at what doesn't belong, slowly revealing the shape that's been waiting underneath. Your posture, your voice, your movements, they are your tools. Every action is a stroke of the chisel. Every moment counts. How you enter a room, how you shake someone's hand, how you sit, how you listen, how you speak. It all sends a message, and that message is never neutral. It's always saying something. It either invites attention or repels it. It either whispers, "I belong," or "ignore me." Most people, without realizing it, will respond accordingly. Not because they're shallow or mean-spirited, but because that's how we're wired. People don't have the time or capacity to deeply evaluate every soul they encounter, so they rely on signals, the ones they can see and hear instantly. Body language, tone of voice, eye contact, pace, posture, and presence. These cues speak louder than words. That's why this is not about arrogance. It's about assumption. If you assume you are powerful, you begin to carry yourself with that quiet certainty. Your voice steadies. Your shoulders square. Your presence expands. And like a mirror, the world reflects that belief back to you. But if you assume you are small, unworthy, that you must prove something before you're allowed to take up space, then your actions will show it. You'll hesitate. You'll shrink yourself. You'll seek permission for things you already own. And again, the world will follow your lead. Because here's the truth. You are not just living in the world. You're projecting into it. The world is responding to what you project. Not your unseen potential, not your quiet truth, but to the energy you send out. It's a signal. So act like you're the best, not to compete, not to dominate, but to finally show yourself and the world that you've woken up to the truth no one ever taught you. Power is not given, it is claimed, and the one who dares to claim it wins. Have you ever wondered why some people, even when they contribute little of real value, seem to capture all the attention? They enter a meeting, toss out a vague idea, and suddenly all heads nod in agreement. Meanwhile, someone else, maybe it's even you, who has spent hours thinking, refining, planning, crafting smart, careful insights, gets barely a glance. The room goes quiet after you speak, not because you weren't brilliant, but because your signal didn't carry. It's not your competence that's lacking, it's your certainty. It's missing at the surface. Because the world doesn't follow the most capable person in the room, it follows the most certain. People are drawn to strength. They want to believe in someone. And if you can stand there, speak clearly, move deliberately, and radiate quiet confidence, you become that anchor, that presence others instinctively want to trust, even when your ideas aren't perfect, even when your answers are still forming. The power isn't in the perfection. The power is in the projection. Confidence, then, is not a reward. It's a requirement. It's not something you earn after you succeed. It's what you need before anything begins to shift. If you want to lead, you cannot sit back and wait until the moment feels right. Because here's the truth. You will never feel completely ready. No one ever truly does. That's the hidden reality no one talks about. The real difference between those who rise and those who remain behind isn't capability. It's the choice to act ready, to show up ready. Even when trembling inside, that's the powerful illusion that eventually becomes real. The lie that transforms into truth through repetition. Because each time you step forward, like you're in control, even when fear grips your chest, people begin to believe it. They adjust. They fall into your rhythm. You respond to the image you project, not to the quiet doubts you carry within. This is why, again and again, you've seen average men leading exceptional teams. Why overconfident voices dominate rooms, while quiet brilliance remains overlooked in the background. Why is that? Because the world doesn't reward what's hidden. It reflects what you are on the surface, what you broadcast. It's not what you contain. Can be brilliant, thoughtful, and strong. But if your energy whispers doubt, people won't pause to investigate further. They won't dig for your depth. They'll take the cue and move along. So you must own the room long before the room offers you any permission. Walk in like you already belong there. Speak like the space was built with you in mind. Carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to prove a thing, because the very act of trying to prove something sends the opposite message.
Ow!
It says, maybe I'm not what I appear to be. Even the smallest hesitation speaks volumes. A split-second delay before speaking, a nervous laugh, a downward glance. A closed posture, these are subtle leaks of presence that say, I'm unsure. And everyone senses it immediately, because we as humans are wired to follow strength, or what appears to be strength. It's not cruelty, it's instinct. People unconsciously reposition you the moment they sense uncertainty. They bump you one seat lower in the social hierarchy. They take your insights with caution. They question your contributions more. They test your boundaries. Not to diminish you, but because that's how our brains navigate power. That's why. Confidence, whether real or performed, is one of the most powerful emotional signals you can emit. It creates gravity. It draws people into your orbit, commands space, even in silence. So never wait to be celebrated before you carry yourself like a winner.
Don't.
Never hold back, waiting for someone to nod in approval before you stand tall. Never. Wait to be invited to speak. Take your space, because every hesitation is a silent invitation for someone else to step in and take the spotlight that could have been yours. And this is not about being loud or arrogant. It's about being sure. Even silence, if held with strength, becomes a powerful force. If you sit in a room and say very little but keep your gaze steady, your posture upright, your presence-rooted people begin to wonder about you. They lean in. They listen harder. Because silence, when laced with confidence, creates mystery. And mystery is magnetic. But don't confuse it with silence born from fear. Because silence without presence is just invisibility. And the world does not chase what it cannot feel. That's why your first task when you enter any space is not to explain yourself. It's to occupy it. With your breath. With your spine. With your gaze. With your rhythm. With the energy that says, without a word, I'm here, I matter, and I belong. Before you say a word, your presence has already started the conversation. Long before a single syllable leaves your mouth, your body has spoken volumes. Room has already taken note of your posture, your stillness, the way you carry yourself. Energy moves ahead of words, like a tide rising before a ship arrives. And when you finally speak, let your voice carry the full weight of your belief, not just in your idea, but in yourself. Speak like every word matters. Like each one holds weight, like your voice itself demands attention. Speak with the energy of someone who knows they're supposed to be heard. As if silence from others would be the mistake, not your words. Why? Because if you speak without belief, the people listening won't believe either. If you don't look, convinced of your own presence, your own worth, no one else will be. People don't just follow logic, they follow certainty. They crave direction. They rally behind someone who speaks like they've already been chosen. They want to follow the one who walks like the path belongs to him. The one who looks like he was always meant to lead. They don't hand the crown to the most talented. They hand it to the one who already acts like he's wearing it. So act. Not because you're arrogant. Not because you're faking something you don't have. But because you finally understand how this game works, and you're finished sitting quietly on the sidelines, while others, less deserving, take center stage. You don't owe the world your smallness. You owe it your presence. You owe it the full truth of who you are when you stop hiding. If you don't step forward and claim your space, someone else will. Someone with less talent, less drive, less depth, but more nerve. That's the uncomfortable truth. You might still ask yourself, but what if I'm pretending? What if they see through it? Here's the twist that changes everything. Everyone's pretending. Even those people you look up to, the ones who seem fearless, powerful, untouchable, were once where you are. Unsure, uncertain, making it up as they went. The only difference? They didn't let their uncertainty dictate their actions. They chose conviction before they ever had proof. They chose presence before they had validation. That's the quiet strategy most people never realize. Your belief shapes your reality, not the other way around. Confidence is a kind of self-hypnosis, a repetition of image, word, and action. At first, it feels forced. You stand taller, even when your legs shake. You speak louder, even when your voice feels thin. You hold eye contact, even when your instinct is to look away. It's awkward at first, but then something starts to shift. Slowly, your nervous system begins to catch up with your posture. Your energy aligns with your intent. Your body begins to believe the story you're telling it. And so does the world. This isn't deception. This is transformation. You're not lying to others. You're training them how to see you. And more importantly, you're training yourself how to become the man you were always capable of being. Every time you walk with value, speak with weight, move with certainty, you reinforce the idea that you are someone to pay attention to. And the more you believe it, the more others do too. Because reputations aren't built on truth, they're built on consistency. The world doesn't reward the most brilliant, it rewards the most predictable signal. If you show up with the same energy, the same power, day after day, eventually people accept it as fact. They stop second-guessing. They repeat what they see. And slowly, your myth becomes your identity. You've seen this happen. You've felt it. A man walks into a room quiet, calm, certain. He doesn't brag. He doesn't dominate the conversation. Yet people move aside for him. They defer to him without question. They listen, even in his silence. Because he assumes power. An assumption is contagious. It spreads like scent. People feel it before they understand it. On the other hand, consider the man who walks into a room unsure of his place. He smiles too often, almost as if trying to convince himself he belongs. His body shrinks inward, folding in on itself like a retreating shell. He tries desperately to be agreeable, to cause no discomfort, to take up as little space as possible. But what happens then? What does the room do in response? It forgets him. It overlooks him completely, not because he lacks worth or value, but because without saying a single word is already told the room, you don't have to respect me. This is the quiet disease of self-erasure. It is always a choice. You can choose to shrink, to defer, to wait patiently until someone else tells you that you are enough, or you can choose to stand tall as if you already are enough, as if your place is undeniable. You don't need permission to start acting powerful. You simply act powerful. The permission will follow naturally. The world will treat you exactly the way you treat yourself. So the next time you walk into a room, stop playing small. Don't look around, hoping someone will recognize your greatness. Instead, walk like it's already understood. Speak like your words carry weight. Move as if the room belongs to you, not because you want to dominate or overshadow others, but because you finally refuse to disappear. People respect certainty. Not perfection, not humility, not even skill. They respect certainty. You can be wrong and still lead. You can lack experience and still earn trust. As long as you carry yourself like someone who fully believes in who they are becoming. That's why confidence isn't about volume or loudness. It's not shouting or aggressively taking up space. It's presence, the quiet strength in your posture, the calm steadiness in your voice, the stillness and focus in your eyes. Confidence is moving slowly and deliberately because you don't need to rush to gain approval. It's holding silence like a weapon, not needing to convince anyone because you've already decided who you are. Others pick up on this fast. People want someone to follow, someone to trust, someone who carries belief like a flame that lights the way for others. And when they sense that energy in you, they start to organize themselves around it. Not because you force them, but because they've been waiting for someone like you to appear. So don't wait. Don't keep asking yourself if you're ready. Readiness is a myth. No one ever feels completely ready. The strongest people you know were just bold enough to act before they were certain. They jumped first and learned how to land on the way down. That's your job now. Not to perfect your image, but to choose it. Not to wait for proof, but to assume your role. Not to apologize for who you are, but to broadcast it with quiet force. Because if you don't, someone else will define you for you. and they'll write a version of your story that fits their narrative, not yours. That's the risk of silence. It's the cost of hesitation. You can either teach the world who you are, or you can let it label you based on how uncertain you appear. You've probably heard the saying, fake it till you make it. But that's not quite right. You're not faking anything. You're becoming. Think of it as practicing power the same way a musician practices their instrument. It's not about pretending to know what you're doing. It's about committing to learn by doing it again and again until the movements, the voice, the posture, the energy, they are no longer an act. They simply become who you are. And when you reach that point, when you've worn the crown so long that it no longer feels heavy on your head, people stop questioning. They stop testing your limits. Instead, they begin to assume what you assumed long ago, that you are the one who leads. It's the one who matters, the one who truly belongs. At the top, the irony is cruel but undeniable. True power doesn't necessarily go to the best. It goes to the one who believes he is the best, the one who acts like the best, the one who radiates confidence without apology, not because he despises others, but because he has finally stopped doubting himself. This isn't about being the nicest, smartest, or most hardworking person in the room. It's a game of perception, and perception bends reality. If you carry yourself as invisible, then invisible you will be. If you speak with uncertainty, you will be challenged and ignored. But if you speak with calm conviction, move with purpose in every step, and look out at the world with an unshakable gaze, people will feel it deep down and they will respond accordingly. You don't need to shout to be powerful. You don't need to dominate to lead. You don't even need to have everything figured out. What you do need is to drop the habit of asking for permission just to exist. Stop waiting for someone else to recognize your potential. Stop hoping someone will finally call on you. Stop shrinking your presence to make others comfortable. If they feel uncomfortable with your greatness, let them squirm. That is not your problem anymore. Power is not a reward given by fair judges. It is a mirror. It reflects exactly what you send out. If you send fear, it will reflect rejection back at you. If you send confidence, it will open doors and offer opportunities. You are not merely walking through life. With every step you are declaring yourself. Every time you enter a room, speak your mind. Or choose to remain silent or act decisively, you are sending a message. This is who I am. This is how I expect to be treated. So let me ask you, what have you been broadcasting lately? Have you been acting like a man still waiting to become good enough? Or like a man who already knows he is enough? Have you been walking through life, unsure of your worth, or carrying yourself like someone to whom the world owes attention? Because the answer to that question, more than your talent, your resume, or your intentions, is what truly determines how the world will treat you. If you assume you are a background character, the world will never cast you as the lead. If you act like your voice doesn't matter, people will stop listening. But if you assume you are necessary, if you move like you are valuable, then others will naturally adapt to that energy. They will lean in. They will listen. They'll follow. They will follow. They will believe what you believe, because confidence, when practiced with unwavering discipline, eventually becomes truth. It's not about controlling every situation or guaranteeing the outcome you desire. Far from it. What you do control, however, is how you show up. And when you show up with unwavering certainty, people notice. When you walk into a room and your presence speaks loudly before you even utter a word, something undeniable shifts in the atmosphere. That subtle but powerful shift is what separates the forgotten from the unforgettable, the sheep from the wolf, the one who waits from the one who decides. So here is the unshakable truth that ends all debate. You do not become powerful by accident. Power is not a stroke of luck or something that lands in your lap. You become powerful by assuming power again and again and again until it becomes impossible for anyone to see you as anything else. The man who walks with the deep-seated belief that he is the best is not waiting for permission. He is not standing by for validation, nor is he hesitating for the right moment to arrive. Instead, he moves through the world as if the game already belongs to him. And the world, in turn, kneels not because he demanded it, but because he patiently, relentlessly taught it to. So now it's your turn. No more shrinking yourself to fit others' expectations. No more lengthy explanations to justify your worth. No more silent hoping for recognition that may never come. From this moment forward, walk with the undeniable confidence that no one is better than you, not because you need to prove it to others, but because no one will believe it until you believe it first. Power is not something granted to you by chance or handed down by some invisible authority. Power is assumed, and the one bold enough to assume it first is the one who ultimately rules. Now, tell me, who are you going to be the moment this ends? The man who waits, hesitates, and apologizes, or the man who steps forward, takes his place, and owns it without question?